right, welcome back to Making the Brand, another episode here with special guest, friend, and a friend of mine and a friend of Fortress, Mr. Carl West.
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm great, man. I just hanging around you for a couple hours, man. I feel pretty good, man. Good place. Good place.
Good
space around here.
Good. No, I'm happy to hear that. So, you took a break from your southern place in Savannah and came up just to visit us in the cold Chicago.
Unfortunately, man, I landed here last Thursday and I was like, what am I doing? I wanted to go tell the driver, man, just turn around and take me back. But I had some business I had to take care of. So, as long as I'm in and out, I'm not going to be, matter of fact, I'm probably here too many days. Yeah. I think, again, last Thursday, and I'll be leaving, today is Wednesday, so I'll be leaving out Friday, Saturday. So, 7-8 days, that's more than enough.
But Chicago's always going to be home for you, right?
It's going to have a place in my heart.
Okay, wow. Okay.
But home is going to be where I spend the quality time of my remaining life.
Sure.
So far, it's going to be Savannah.
Okay.
It may change, but I doubt it. I love it there, man.
Yeah.
It's very peaceful, warm, hospitality, good weather. I discovered some nice restaurants. I'm a creature of habit, so as long as I have the same things to go to, then plus what you do at home, I grill, a couple of days a week.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for a better situation at this particular moment.
Sure. Yeah. That's good. Life is good. So by way of introduction, Carl is in several spaces, but one is in the publishing, also has leadership development. He's in media. He's in nonprofit. You're coming out with a book. So you've got a lot of projects going on, but how would you introduce yourself to somebody if you're jumping in an elevator with them? Who is Carl West?
Wow. I like to use the word prophetic thought leader, because everything we do, we have to give some concentration and thought to it. Mm-hmm. And so I like to consider myself, of course, a businessman. That's mm-hmm. always a good title to have. But then other than that, a community advocate. But I always like the word thought leader, man. It's just because, again, everything starts with a thought.
Right.
And then, of course, now how do you lead those thoughts down the pathway for progress?
Right. So with being a thought leader, how did you get into, so people know you as TBT News, MG Media, they know you as the voice of the community activist. So what was your journey and how did this end up happening?
Well, like a lot of kids, we just celebrated 50 years of hip hop last year rather, and I grew up a hip hop dude, man. I was in high school. Hip hop was explode. Run DMC and LL Cool J and all of them was tearing up the charts, man. And I wanted to be a rapper, and so I had a group in high school, and they reluctantly told me that I couldn't rap, so just be the manager. And so I chose to do that. And so then, of course, instead of being somebody who was behind the microphone, I was able to find out what a manager of a group does. And it was organized, right? It was go out and create the space for them to do their thing. So I organized concerts at the local park districts. I went to all the park districts in my surrounding neighborhood, which is about 4 or 5, and I said, hey, can we do a show here? And so I would book a show and do flyers, and you're talking about 16, 17 years old.
Wow.
And so we started, and then we would allow the neighborhood to also have X amount of people who was in the neighborhood who wanted to be rappers to be on stage. So it wasn't just about us. We would also invite those community people who wanted to be in hip hop and rappers to come on stage and perform too. And so we was having these big crowds, man, in the Park District gymnasiums. Mm-hmm. It was fun. And so that bit the bug on being on the other side. I was like, y'all keep rapping. The money gonna come to me first.
Yeah, right.
Cause we was charging I can't remember how much, but I know we was charging to come into the gym and to perform. And I was like, wow, right? So that taste was something that I never forgot. And so I was hungry for it. So that just kind of went from there. And everything I've done has been in that same line. Being able to control the narrative, being able to control content when I wanted to get into the publishing space. I always had a love for that. Majoring in communications in college, and then I discovered, of course, how popular. Like every family had the Ebony and Jet, magazines in their house. And so the first magazine I did when I graduated college was a hip hop magazine called The Truth. I called the hip hop version the Jet. It was the same size as Jet. And what we did was but it was all about Chicago. So I remember all of the covers were Bernie Mac, Da Brat, R. Kelly, Common, Kanye. I mean, anybody that was local, but they was all up and coming.
Right.
And so that's what made it successful, because I had local folks on the cover. And because I used to always see the magazines on the shelves in Walgreens, and I'm like, there's nobody on Chicago on those covers. And so I was like, I'll make a magazine that have strictly Chicago. And I went to all the record stores in the neighborhoods and said, can I put this in your store? But I want it to be right here on the counter.
Yeah.
And they all let me do it. And they loved it because they all sold out again. And the one reason why they sold out was because it was people that they was familiar with from the community.
Right.
So and people came from all neighborhoods. Like the Brat was from the West Side, so she, I had George's Music Room on the West Side, and she would sell, that cover would sell out. They would be calling me like, man, I need more. Man, they just, I had them selling for like $1, and I gave the store 50 cents off every sale.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that is where it all kind of started.
But I think it's, having known you for a couple of years now, I think it's probably in your wiring. We talked about DNA earlier, of like how you're wired, and like the hustle, the connecting people, the kind of seeing the vision was there even from a young age then.
Oh yeah. It was there totally. I mean, I go even back further when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I remember we had a neighbor across the street from me, and he was a friend of mine, and we walked to school together. And his grandmother, he lived with his grandma, and she asked me, she was like, Carl, would you run to the store and get me a newspaper? And I was like, homie, why don't you? He was like, man, I ain't doing that. He was like really defiant, like, I'm not doing that. She ain't no newspaper. And I went and got it, and he went to school. And every day after that, I used to go get her a newspaper on my way to school. And she would give me the change. If it may have been a dime, a nickel at the time, it was. And so it was ironically, and I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years old. So by the end of that year, I probably had about 8 houses on the block, because I grew up in Chatham, and there was in Chatham was a lot of elderly people. I guess what did you call elderly back then? If I'm only 8 or 9, 10 years old. I had about 8 or 9 houses I was going, because we had a corner store on our block called Hayes. Never forget it. Old man and his wife ran it. And I used to just go, and so I couldn't carry it all, so I went to Jules, which is not too far, and got a cart and brought it. But my dad kept getting rid of the cart. I don't want that thing in my backyard. So I had to hand it to a neighbor's backyard. And so I just used to go and bring the cart, and I would get bread and milk and the newspapers and all that stuff, and they would give me the change. And so my friends went to school. I was early DoorDash. They went to school, and I'm like, y'all forget y'all make some money. And so then all of a sudden I started cutting the grass for the people.
Right.
I started shoveling their snow. I started raking their leaves. And that happened that took place until about my second year of high school. And of course now I wanted to be with the boys. And so I had to give all that. I retired from that job, that entrepreneurial spirit, and went hanging out with the boys and the girls. Yeah,
but you had that work ethic even from age 9 or 10. And we talked about earlier today. It's just like fine-tuning your circle and cutting people off that are not elevating you or making you better.
Right.
And so do you still find like you're still having to do that?
No, not no more. I've done it. I've cleaned house now. I mean, I don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah.
I did that already. So every now and then, there are people that find themselves in your circle, and it's not necessarily people who I interact with every day, but sometimes you have to say, cats will like, hey, let's meet up and have a drink, and I'm like, that's okay. Yeah. So that's the same. That's about as much as I'll do now. Yeah. But the closet is clean.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I got rid of everybody.
That's a good goal.
Like I said, I got a couple of cats who grew up with me, and they get it, and they want to be a part of the next level of life, their own lives, and I help contribute to that, and they help me, and so and I'm happy to have them around. I know they loyal, devoted cats, right? If I call them up any time and say, I'm in trouble, they'll be there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
No doubt.
important. Got to have somebody like that.
For sure. So you started to get your connections out in Chicago. You had your hip hop magazine, starting to take note.
Then I started the Hip Hop Awards.
Yeah, okay.
I started Chicago's only, to this day, only Hip Hop Awards. And it was because I followed my philosophy was, even at a young age, I got through mentors, is follow what the big boys do at the level you can do it at.
Right.
And it's interesting you've been in the business that you're in, because what prompted that was I was talking to somebody who was trying to make a little neighborhood commercial, and I told him to look at Nike.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and I never forget this one, the commercial. It's in my head right now. It was a commercial where the person was running on the rocks with the ocean behind them. And I said, you should make a commercial like that. And you should make it where you running on the blocks, like just running through the blocks. Other words, do what the big boys do
Right.
at the level you can do it at. You can't go wrong. They've already laid the framework, and duplicate that same commercial
Right.
just at what you can do. And so that's kind of how I came up with the Hip Hop Awards. I saw BET doing the BET Awards, Soul Train doing the Soul Train Awards, Essence doing the Essence Awards, Ebony Magazine doing the Ebony Awards. And I said, wow, I want to, since I got a hip hop magazine, I should do an award show. So the first thing I did was to go to the Soul Train Awards. And I didn't want to go front. I wanted to go backstage. So I got media credentials to go backstage. I wanted to see how it looked from behind the scenes. You know what it looks like on the front. You're in the audience, you're sitting down, you see it. I wanted to see what it looks like from behind and see the complexity of how you organize it. So, and somebody told me it's controlled chaos. Because it is. It looks chaotic. But the only thing that matters is what the folks see when that curtain is open.
Right.
And so I did that. I came home and said, award show. And I did it.
Wow.
Same premise with the magazine. The only people performing are the folks who are local performers. I had Kanye on performing. I got all this stuff on video. I got Kanye when he was first kicking it. I got, again, Robert Kelly and Bernie Mac and Common and Twista and Lisa Ray. Lisa Ray and Tamron Hall was my first host.
Wow.
Because remember, Tamron Hall was a newscaster here. She had just came to Chicago.
Right.
She wasn't from here, and she was on Fox. And then her and Lisa Ray was friends because Lisa Ray was a model, modeling for some local beauty products. And so they became friends. And so Lisa Ray was just getting ready to go to move to LA to pursue her career. And they both co-hosted my very first award show.
Wow. And look at them now. I mean, that's
Look at them now.
I feel like you had discovered talent like so early with Kanye and Common. And
I don't call it discovery, thank you, but I just call it, we all was on a hustle. It was all hustler. We all was in the same place at the same time trying to hustle our game. And we just happen to share commonalities, right? You're an artist, you need a stage. I got a stage, I need artists.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a magazine, I need content. Right?
Connect the dots.
They artists, they need promotions.
Right.
And so, matter of fact, most of the artists today, from Common to Kanye to Lisa Ray to Bernie Mac, my magazine cover that I gave them was the very first one they ever had.
Wow.
Because again, they wasn't even celebrated stars. They were just, Bernie Mac was at the Cotton Club just telling jokes. Funny as heck. Having a crowd. But nobody nationally or even locally paid attention to him. And I wanted to start a magazine that gave local artists exposure.
Yeah.
That's all.
So then from there, how did the pivot to TBT come about?
It was content. I just wanted to do, I grew up, I got a little more mature, got away from hip hop. I matured, had a different idea of, had a more perspective about politics. In life, and I wanted to see how I had more issues concerning the community I wanted to be involved in. And so it was really, to me, it was the same thing. It was content, it was publishing. I just had a different focus on what I was going to write about.
Yeah.
That's all. It wasn't, I still wrote about hip hop, but it wasn't the majority of the content. The more the content was maybe politics and community service type stuff, like what we doing in the neighborhood. So, but it was all the same thing, really.
Right. And now TBT you've got a politics lane, you've got a celebrity lane, you've got an athlete lane, you've got a business lane. So, we were talking about how you're kind of niching down into more of the business and finance lane. So can you talk about that? Because the other offerings for TBT are very popular. The Public Eye and talking about politics in Chicago and.
I mean, well, Chicago is a great place for publishing, especially business. I mean, Chicago was, is the next to New York, is kind of like the capital of economics development.
Right.
I understand that Florida is about to overtake everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I heard that. But Chicago is top 5 of, and so you have to focus on the things that are around you. Politics, of course, is number one. We number one in the political landscape. Business again, and of course we know sports. We still riding off of Michael,
Yeah.
right? People still wait on us to come with the next Michael, and so we still have the Bulls are still respected, even though we haven't had a winning team. But Chicago is a sports town. We got we got 2 baseball teams, 1 basketball, 2 hockeys. I mean, so you got to cover those things, if you want to appeal to an audience. And so it's pretty easy, understanding how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago's definitely a sports town, political town, but talked about what's next for the TBT brand as far as focusing more on wealth building and money.
I mean, there's this conversation in my community and our community about wealth, about the lack of resources and opportunities. And to me, the only way to create those opportunities is to generate resources. We have to be able to build wealth in order to change communities. That's how it's done anywhere in the world, right? You want to change your environment, man, you have to create some kind of economic structure so you can build better houses, better roads, better schools. And you do that by having better businesses, great companies that employ people that can contribute to that factors, those factors. And so to me it's ABC, it's elementary. I'm trying to get everybody else in my community primarily, because I think the world sees it, the world that's important sees it. I'm trying to get my community to understand that, you can't be afraid of money. You can't be afraid of building wealth, because there's some false narrative that, money makes you corrupt.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, that might be true, but I'd rather have it than not.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it, but also you can have it do good. It don't have to. Is it gonna corrupt you? Don't be afraid. That's the question.
Agreed.
Is it gonna corrupt you? But if it's not, and then welcome yourself to it.
Right.
Do the work,
Yeah.
because you got to work to get it. Anybody giving it to you.
Right.
You got to be innovative. Got to be creative. You got to create opportunities. Again, there's nothing better. I was telling you about Russell Simmons. That was the other thing he told me. I said, "What's your greatest joy?" I interviewed him years ago when I was doing a hip hop magazine. I went to the Soul Train Awards at the time. Was in New York to check it out, and he said there's nothing like employing people so they can go out and help families.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing in the world you can do for a man or a woman is to give an opportunity to raise their family through employment.
Right.
And I always remember that. But how do you do it? Through creating opportunities for them to do that. And so I just want, as I stated, there's a reason why Bloomberg News is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365.
Right.
And all they talking about is money in some form or fashion.
Right.
And here are folks who got money that's mostly watching. And if they can watch every day, and then why can't folks who's trying to have a life through obtaining capital, and money is relative. It's what you need to survive and build you something and strive. That's what you need. I mean, it differs for everybody. I mean, some folks feel like they need $10 billion, and other folks 100 million, other folks 100,000.
Right.
It's relative to what you think you need, but you got to put yourself in a position to.
Of course.
To obtain it, to earn it.
Yeah.
Because you have to earn it.
Right.
Ain't nobody going to really give it to you, not to that level.
Yeah. No, I think
I wish you was. I've been sitting around, I've been holding my hand out just every day, drop it in my hands, but I realized that was never going to happen.
Right. I think you and I are very aligned of just like you got to do the work and you got to kind of create your own fortune and can't wait for it to be given to you.
Nah. I mean, what you do hope, though, along the way is that when people recognize your talent, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
They want to invest in it.
That's right.
That's what you do hope, because I see that happen.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen so many times. And I'm like, those are smart people, because smart people understand how to provide opportunities for people. I remember I asked to do the question. Because I used to work for the Chicago Board of Trade. That part is not, I don't talk about often.
Yeah, I didn't know
but
that.
That's how I got involved. I stopped there to start my official business. But I was there for about 6 years, and I'm watching these traders just massive, I learned the stock market, so I invested, but I ain't had no money, so they taught me how to do penny stocks.
Yeah.
Right. And I literally had the first, check this out, Viagra. I was working there when Viagra first got approved by the FDA.
Wow.
And it was like $1.08.
Wow.
I bought like 1,000 shares. But I sold them because when I was left to start the business, I was struggling, didn't have no money. I sold them. But when I sold them, it was like $9, $10 a share.
Good for you.
I think about if I had just kept that like 10 years, 15 years later when Viagra really popped and was literally $1,000 a share.
Yeah.
But I couldn't foresee. That was the one time I couldn't foresee the future.
Yeah.
I mean, I did in a sense because I saw it moving.
Right.
But I didn't want to sell them. I was reluctant. Every time I walked into a Charles Schwab location to sell it, I'd be like, I was selling off time, 25 here.
Yeah.
Because I needed money to live.
Sure. Yeah, you got to survive, especially when you're starting the business.
And so, but again, I wish somebody would have, that's the only thing I wish that would have happened. I do and I don't, but I really do. I wish somebody would have seen that relentless visionary dude. It was like, and cuff you up.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell a story. I'm going to work for the Board of Trade. I saw this happen all the time. They would bring in somebody would recommend somebody who came in off the street, and they would snatch him up, and about 6 months later, he'll be a trader with a jacket, making millions.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, wow, how come I don't see that happening, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked him why. I asked one dude why he did that. It was one dude in particular. He said, here's why. He said, if I ever get in, I learned, that was my aha moment down there. That was what broke me through in terms of understanding life in its totality. Working there, they was, some cats was like, beat it. Some was like, let me share with you.
Yeah.
And this guy said to me, he said, Carl, he said, imagine, I've brought in 5 cats who came off the streets. They may have been drug heads, alcoholics, having hard times. Somebody recommended that they good people, help them out. Mm-hmm. I did that. So I got 5 cats that now are making millions of dollars in the stock market. He said, if anything ever happened to me, guess who's going to cover me?
Right.
My kids will never have to worry about their tuition being disturbed. The mortgage will never be disturbed. My car notes will never be disturbed because they're going to take care of it until I get back on my feet.
Right.
So he made allies. He built, him helping them helped him.
Right.
Just in case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, paying it forward and, not expecting anything in return, but good things happen to those people.
Just in case he fall off, because he said, in that business, you can be up here and I can lose $20 million tomorrow.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I got to go to my wife and say, we got to sell the house.
Yeah.
We got to pull the kids out of school.
Yeah.
And all I got to do is be like, oh, yeah. I need y'all to cover this.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, wow, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Mm-hmm. That was worth a PhD to hear him give it to me like that. Because most people would never envision to look at it like that. Or why you do what you do. Why would I assist you in being... Other folks be like, why am I going to help you make money?
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
Right.
Either why am I helping you? I don't want you to make money. You might make more than me. But how much more money can I make if I got 8 million, you got 9, he got 20. I mean, it's all, that's why I use the word relative. It's all relative. Yeah. But what you get on the back end, just in case, these are insurance policies.
It's insurance, yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh, dope.
Yeah. The saying that hits me a lot is just people want you to do well, but they don't want you to do better than them.
Yeah.
And so, I'm wired that way of like, just give and don't expect anything in return, and good things happen. And, when you need a favor returned, it'll happen. And
I learned that because good things have always happened. I've been very blessed over the last 5 years has been nothing but, and I was telling people this, I always share these, I go back I do my own introspection, like, damn, what's, God, why you, like, you've been good to me, what do you do? And it's like, you served me well.
Yeah.
And so far, but here's what I always know, like my man with the insurance policy. Anything can happen,
Yeah.
and most likely something will.
Right.
The fortunate thing is I will be able to manage it based on the things I've done
Right.
in the past that will allow me to manage it, even if it's just mentally tough to handle what it is. Because sometimes we got to deal with things mentally more so than
Right.
you fell off,
Yeah.
you lost your money, you broke a leg, or you lost
Right.
a relative through untimely death or something like that. A lot of times when we get to a point, once you get where you got those insurance policies, now you got to deal with how you deal with things mentally.
Yeah.
How
Right.
that's why we talked about the health and meditating and all these things,
Right.
getting good sleep and all that. It's to help you deal with the mental aspect of this journey now.
Right.
That's where I think that we probably at.
Yeah.
Because tragedies come, and I think we're equipped enough to be able to take care of it in certain areas. But if your mental ain't right,
Yep.
it all
That's
falls
right.
down.
That's right.
Your mental
Yeah.
and your health.
Yeah, agreed. And so let's talk about what you're doing on the leadership development side. I know you have the Leadership Development Council, and you want to talk about what you're doing to elevate other people?
I mean, that's real easy to me. Every time you out and about, you trying to instill that idea of greatness. Like, if you're going to pursue something, if you're going to do or pursue something, you might as well think about it at the highest level.
Right.
How do you get in? And you don't necessarily have to get to that point, but everything you do in that space should be focused on how do I move it up?
Right.
How do I move the needle always up? Because all you're doing is you ain't just elevating situations. You elevating and preparing yourself, right? Again, that mental, because it's all mental, and so to me that's just, and that's even though it's in a structural program, but that's just to me just every day having those conversations, being around people, sharing the company of people where y'all all talking about that same common thread. Yeah. How do we be better? How do we put ourselves in a position to change situations, increase opportunities? Right. That's just a given, So, again, it's a structured organization, but it's just what we do every day when we just interacting with people, because that you like mine, that y'all got like minds. Because again, I'm not around people who, if I gotta make you, I ain't part of that take them to the water thing. Right. I ain't, I did that part, take them to the water, make them drink. Now I don't have time to take you to no water. Right. I give you information, I share with you. I hope you see me. I hope seeing me and hearing me is an inspiration enough to say, I can get that. I want you to look at me and say, I want you to look at me with a side eye and be like, I'm better than, I can do what he did. I want you to look at me and say that. Oh, he got the same shoes I got on. I got a sweatsuit like that. Yeah. I can do that. And then go do it. Right. That's it. But I ain't taking you to no water. I used to do that, and I realized I was wasting too much time taking cats to water who just did not want to drink. They wanted to starve. They wanted to die of thirst. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Do that. Yeah. And I feel no shame because at first, you got that internal thing. People around you like, man, why you ain't help them? Why you ain't bring them there? You ain't. You think you too good. You ain't. And I was like, I heard that in the beginning. I was like, man, okay. And I'm trying to drag a cat to the water. Then I realized at some point, no, that's okay. Yeah. I ain't got time to be dragging to no water. I agree. That's time wasted.
That was a realization for me too. It's just like, not everybody's going to want it. And even if you get them to water and they're not going to drink, and that's okay. That's okay, man. So I just don't take them anymore. Yeah. I'd rather bring them to water, let them taste it, and say, that tastes good. I got to go get some. Right. Yeah, difference. and by example, too. Let them see what you're doing, what you're building, and be motivated by it. But one question that I always like to ask to end these things is, 100 years from now, what do you want people to know and remember about Carl West? That's a good question, because I always talk about a monument to my name. And it's not just me, anybody. I tell anybody, don't you want a monument to your name? And a monument doesn't mean
It can, but it doesn't necessarily mean a physical statue. It means that when somebody say your name 100 years from now, what they remember. Oh man, he was a good guy, man. He always tried to do. He did this. If that's what is repeated or said after hearing your name 100 years later, job well done. The statue would be cool, but that's not necessarily what it's about. It's about leaving leaving things, because we do it all the time. We talk about Michael Jordan, right? He comes to mind when we talk about certain things, right? Whatever it may be. You know, I'll talk about a Bill Gates. I'll talk about a Steve Jobs. I'll talk about people that created things and done things that make you remember who they are. And last thing, I tell my daughter this all the time to remind her. I said, and I've been telling her this since she was a kid. I said, look, you know, because your kids put posters up on their wall of their favorite singer, favorite actor. They see them in the magazine, rip them out and tape them on the wall. We all did that. And I said, it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. But in the back of your mind, what you should be examining them, studying them, and what makes them great at what they do, that makes you want to put their picture on your wall, so you can be thinking about how you're going to have somebody put your picture on their wall 10, 15, 20, 100 years from now.
That's right.
That's what I always try to remind her, because I don't want to just be cheering them. I want to join in that success of why they being cheered. Right. And that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it, man.
That's good. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing some wisdom and talking about your journey. And last thing is your book that's coming out.
The support system. Who will help guide them? The power of mentoring. It just goes without saying. We all have to reach back and share thoughts and wisdoms and ideas and inspiration to the next generation of potential leaders, because somebody did it for us. If you've obtained any kind of success, again, and the word success is relative, whether you driving a bus, whether you a police officer, whether you a cab driver, whether you a CEO, whether you whatever, somebody inspired you to take that route, to put you in that space, because that's the space where you make your life, make a living for you and your family. Right. So somebody had to put something in you, whether it was your parents, a cousin, an uncle, a niece, a bartender, a bum you met on the street. Somebody said something, or showed you something that says, here's what I want to do. Right. Here's what I want. I want to be better than. I want to be greater than. I want to do it like that. I want to do whatever. So think about that, because nobody gets here by themselves. And so that's what the book is about. Laying that structure out in 3 components. And I've been writing this book for 7-8 years now. And so finally it's, I call it divine order. It comes out. Now I have more time. I have a little more success where I can have some free time to devote to the book, which I just did as I went away for about a month to finalize it. And then I'm going to have time in the summer to go on these massive, repetitive book tours every day throughout the weekdays and on the weekends. Just, because it's only required me to give a couple of hours every day. And I will devote an hour, 2 hours every day to do a book signing. And I'm going to call in all my favors with people I know, organizations, companies. Man, buy the book, host a book signing for me at your house, at your office, at a gym, wherever. 5 or more people gather. And hopefully by the end of my objective is by 1 year, I want to sell 100,000 copies after the first year. And if I can do that, mission accomplished. I think that I've touched a lot of people with the book, because it's very powerful, very meaningful. I put a whole lot into this thing just to be candid, but yet sensitive to people's understanding of how they receive information, which is important, and giving it to them in a way, not trying to beat nobody down, but talk to them and say, look, if we want to see change in our environment, our communities, in our world, we have to play this role. We have to create a pathway for the next generation of leaders. Right. And how we do that is through education, mentoring. They two are the same in this. Your teacher is always a mentor. Mm-hmm. Your parents are mentors, and they also teachers. Right. So I kind of combine them and say, let's coaches, mentors, and teachers at the same time. They carry dual roles. Let's do this. So I'm excited about the book. It's I think it's the last big thing that I may do, only because the other things I do are things I've already been doing. Right. I'm just adding some more stuff to it, right? Yeah. Putting a new ram on the wheel. Sure. But this is just something that I've just been in me for a long time, and I can't wait to have it. When I get that first copy in my hand, I'm gonna probably go to a dark closet, man, and just weep it out. Yeah. I already know I'm gonna go to that dark closet, man, and be like, dude, you did more than I could ever have asked for.
That's like your life's work. Yeah. Book. Yeah.
That book is. I would call it that. Yeah. Because it means so much. Because I've lived this my whole life, always giving and sharing. Right. Everything I've done was been from the paper. Getting groceries at 8 or 9, all that. It's all of that is encompassed in this one book, because I want everybody to think about that pathway for themselves, to do that, and to let young people know it's okay to do that, and care about your community through whatever form, and having us as adults let them know that we got you. Right. We really got you. Yeah. And I'm gonna let you know right now, you're gonna be in the book.
Really? Wow.
You in the book. I ain't tell you, but I got your name on a piece of paper.
Oh wow. That's
because
awesome.
What I'm asking, in my conclusion, I had a total of 15 people on a piece of paper. Andrew, he'll tell you, he was on, and I'm asking 15 people to give me their anecdote on who was your biggest influence, who mentored you, but you got to go back. Again, the book is geared towards inspiring not just adults to be mentors, and parents to surround their children with mentors, but for teenagers to know how important it is to have a mentor. Right. And so, who inspired you? Who was that person that moved you when you was in your teen years? Right. Is making people go back and think about it.
I'm excited. That's an honor to be.
So you have to do that in 500 words.
I will. I got you. Yeah. Awesome. Carl West.
So you'll get a time. You'll get a time. I got a deadline. I think it's the end of the month. Okay. You got to have the end of the month or somewhere in the 1st of February. Okay. Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Carl, thanks so much for joining and being on and sharing your story.
Hey man, I appreciate being down at Fortress headquarters. It's almost like home now. I don't want to leave.
That's right.